In this presentation I will explain the dragon and how it is identified by the verses of the Torah, which are Numbers, Deuteronomy, Leviticus and Exodus. These are all satanic. There are 1404 verses with the Satanist Lord barking death to Moses, which became the law of the Jews. In this presentation I will show you how the CIA, Skull and Bones, which was George Bush Sr., he was the head of it before he became president. The CIA and Israel's Mossad have developed a plan to destroy all life on earth. As you know, the president today is another skull and bonesman. This is Obama. His bonesman's name is Undertaker. The West has been conned into purchasing nuclear reactors which are being used presently to kill all life, and along with Russia have established a plan to carry it out. Insanity, or is it desperation? It's desperation. They're not insane. They know that they are doomed. Therefore, they will not allow Christ to rule the earth, because when Christ is recognized, they will be cast off the earth into oblivion. Their religion is totally against Jesus. The Talmud is, without doubt, the most vile religion ever devised by man, originating in Babylon 500 BC. If there is any group on earth that is totally aware who I am, and that when I walked the earth as Jesus was then and am now the Father, I'm here to judge the world. This you will not hear from any pulpit. Why? It was Bill Cooper who explained that when General Cornwallis was defeated by Washington in the War of Independence, they met after the war, and the details of what he told Washington was this: in 200 years America will be regarded as the bastion of freedom, but unwittingly will be preaching religion of the Jews. It can be viewed on YouTube, called the Regions of Saturn. The original name was Regions of Satan. The planet Saturn is the planet regarded to represent Satan. Of course, this is only in their minds. Anything that is in the heavens is mine. It is further out than Jupiter. It represents Jesus being 88,800 miles wide. The Greek gematria for Jesus is 888. Therefore, each planet has an association with either Jesus, Jupiter, or Saturn, Satan. You see the address up there? I will splice it into this and play it for you. It has a fair use copyright for non-profit. It was put together by an Australian gentleman. It is the greatest secret the world order has covered up, and that is that Christ is back. They embarked on two plans of attack. Firstly, a concerted effort to kill me. Since nothing worked, the attempts became more extreme. The second was the ultimate weapon of mass destruction, the building of nuclear reactors worldwide, armed with software to destroy the operating systems of the nuclear plant. The space agencies have been watching the approach of Nibiru, which we have been observing for some years ourselves. The governments have been observing since World War II with their super telescopes, and that's what the space shuttle is all about, taking up the space Hubble. At a given signal, the elite intend to hide underground in a vast system of bunkers-type cities called dumbs, and that is exactly what they are, dumb.
Jonathan Williams recorded in his book Legions of Satan, written in 1781, that General Cornwallis revealed to General Washington that a holy war will now begin on America. And when it is ended, America will supposedly be the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be the loyal subjects of the crown. Cornwallis went on to explain what would seem to be a self-contradiction, and he said this, quote, "Your churches will be used to teach the Jews' religion, and in less than 200 years, the whole nation will be working for divine world government. That government that they believe to be divine will be the British Empire. All religions will be permeated with Judaism without even being noticed by the masses, and they will all be under the invisible all-seeing eye of the grand architect of Freemasonry." And indeed, George Washington himself, ladies and gentlemen, was a Freemason, and he gave back through false religion what he had won with his army. This divine world government that Cornwallis spoke of was the religion of the New World Order. Now, the Jewish religion that Cornwallis was talking about is not the religion that most Jews in this world practice, but a new, secular, humanistic view that came out of the Lodge of the Mysteries, promoted under international Zionism and the concept of British Israelism. It is the tenet that the Anglo-Aryan race are the true Israelites, and because of that, their royal family being descended from the house of David in a direct line and a relationship to Jesus Christ himself, have the divine right to rule. One of the myths that are propounded, and you will see more and more of it, is that Jesus did not die on the cross, but entered into a sexual relationship which may have included marriage with Mary of Magdalene, and founded the Merovingian bloodline of kings which began the European dynasties, and this is passed on in secret from father to son and mother to daughter, even unto this day.
Prince William has been inducted into an ancient order of British Knights in a ceremony at Windsor Castle. He's now a Knight of the Garter, all part of his steady elevation in rank as second in line to the throne.
This was a royal coming of age for the young man who will one day be king.
Well, Prince William is walking slightly ahead of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They are bringing up the rear of that procession there. Prince William emerging for the very first time in his garter robes, having been invested at midday today as the 1,000th Knight of the Garter. It's a bizarre sight, really, isn't it?
But also, she was about to go into campaigning on the behalf of Palestinians. Now, you can imagine someone of Princess Diana's profile doing that. They would not have tolerated it. They could not have dealt with that. So I think that's why she was taken out.
By serving some higher purpose than ourselves. A shining purpose. The illumination of 1,000 points of light.
I mean, this is what men have dreamed about for the ages, bringing the world together as one, united and as one in peace, so that we can have prosperity and happiness and joy. And that is precisely what this hidden covenant is all about. It's about that message. And we're all going to become Israel. We all become spiritual Jews, the whole world. And yet we see all of this hatred against the Jews today. But we're all going to become spiritual Jews, everybody that's obedient to God. Wonder what is behind that anti-Jew hostility.
even believe it.
This will be a different kind of conflict against a different kind of enemy.
And in Copenhagen, Denmark is Nick Pope. For 21 years, Nick was a government official for the British Ministry of Defense. From 91 to 94, he ran the British government's UFO project at the Ministry of Defense, where he researched and investigated the UFO phenomenon for the British government. Do you believe there is extraterrestrial life?
Okay, well, we're going over the Drake equation, a simple formula designed to estimate the number of intelligent civilizations in the universe that are trying to get in touch,
Christians across the United States says you don't really expect us to believe that witches are that organized. No, they've just got senators, congressmen, and top witches down there all in one convention. They're not organized. Not at all.
Are you afraid of dying?
Not at all.
Or are you afraid to live?
Sorry, that's really not an area that I can get into a sort of public discussion on. You know, the whole nuclear issue is just so sensitive. That's not something I can discuss publicly.
Or is it both?
Supremacy.
This was the fiery birth of the atomic bomb, culmination of centuries of step-by-step advance in the scientific quest, achievement of intense international effort by the Democratic Allies, product of unremitting research and toil since 1939. This instant of fury and flame and of violence beyond conception sounded the end of an age and heralded a new era in the destiny of mankind, a new relationship of man to his universe, to his universe.
Now, once I met my wife, they knew I was going to destroy them when my angels arrived on the planets with the red dwarf Nibiru. So Martha, my wife, then, in 33 AD, and she is today. You can see that the distance in time is 657 weeks, and the number 12.60 years, which is the number 1260, which is in the Bible, and 657 is how many times the word Lord is found in the New Testament. It's also the nuclear fusion rate of the sun. Now, the Great Pyramid step to the far wall of the King's Chamber is 537 pyramid inches. If you take a latitude and drop it straight down to the latitude of Nell Street, where I was with Mary Magdalene, where the two lines intersect, that is one straight down from where I was born, from that point into the Nell Street address is 537. So the distance into the King's Chamber from the Great Step is 537 pyramid inches. So the maternity ward to the South Pole is 3877, which is how many verses there are in the Bible with the word God, and in them 4,443 times the word God is used. So here we see the 537 pyramid inches from the red stone to the right to the far wall, and that is of course Nell Street, and it passes through the 116.26 antechamber, which is the age I was when I married my first wife. Up the top there you see that between the marriage date of my parent, Daphne, to my stepfather Reginald, 20th July 1934, and April the 6th, 1943, the elapsed time is 454 weeks and 4 days. Convert that to decimals, and we have 454.5712 weeks. That is the height of the Great Pyramid up to the missing rejected capstone. This here is Officious. It is a complete layout of the genetics of my family, There's my stepdaughter, which is Sagittarius. You can just see it on the ecliptic line there with the top of the bow sitting up. It is represented by a figure of a man sitting, and his body is the horse. It's firing an arrow which goes into the heart of Scorpio, and Scorpio is my first wife, my second wife, and my youngest daughter. So you see the officious figure. This has come out of Nostradamus, and he was talking about the 13th constellation, and we see that the Lord is stepping on the scorpion, and its stinger goes into the heel of the right foot, and the arrow goes through the centre of the ecliptic line on the 21st of December in the year 2012. Libra is my mother, Daphne, born in October the 11th. This is April 5th, 1943, when she conceived, and you see that Saturn and Jupiter and Neptune were lined up. Then you see Pluto representing hell, because the name Pluto is from the god of the underworld of hell. It's going through Jupiter, then Venus, and the messenger is Mercury. But the message is between Mars, Mercury and Saturn. So we see then that the distances are Jupiter to the left to Neptune, 28.33, Saturn 6.36, and the total is 34 astronomical units. To the right we've got Saturn, which is to Mercury 8.87, Mars 10.27, total 19.14, that's Revelation 19.14. Then we've got Jupiter to Pluto, Mercury, Venus, and the total there is 42.82. And then we've got Jupiter to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, total Saturn, to Saturn, and then total is 33.29. 1 hour after that it becomes 33.33. Here we have the day I was born, January the 11th, 1944. And we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, and the total is 3168, which is Lord Jesus Christ in Greek gematria. Lord is 800, Jesus 888, and Christ is 1480. Total 3168. On the same day, we measure from Jupiter to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and it's a total of 77.7. So we have the Golightly line of kings on the left. We have the 13th constellation, crushing the great whore, Scorpio, and crushing the head Zionist Jews, the serpent Lucifer. Albert Einstein, as a child I received instruction both in the Bible and in the Talmud. However, he says, I am a Jew, but I am enthralled by the illumination figure of the Nazarene. Jesus is too colossal for the pen of phrasemongers. What he's meaning here is that the people that put Jesus down, however artful, how clever they are, no man can dispose of Christianity with a bon mot. No one can read the Gospels without feeling the actual presence of Jesus. His personality pulsates in every word. No myth is filled with such life. So he went to a Catholic school and learnt nothing about Jesus. There's a sign there. Now, as for me being God in the flesh, I remind you all that the world is doomed. The very elite at the top know I am back and are going to kill all life because they cannot have the earth and as have you as slaves. A decision was reached after many failed attempts to kill me. They have started a process to end the earth as stated, so the meltdown of hundreds of nuclear plants are planned, and scientifically there is nothing to stop it. However, my proof is so astounding, they are convinced. Dates, planets, distances, geometry of the following reveals Lord Jesus Christ 3168. And there it is again. This program, you can look it up yourself, is Solar System Scope. It can accurately show the distances between any planet. In the following, I have the visible planets out to Saturn. I have measured from Jupiter to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn. My rebirth date, 1944. the planet Jupiter as a starting point, being 88,800 miles wide, aligned with the sunrise and moonrise on the date I was born, 888 minutes, and my stepbrother's age when I was reborn was 8.88 years. Then when I was 8,880 days old, my daughter was born in Port Alberni, Canada, May the 4th, 1968, and the sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes, and on it goes. So the number 8880, my age, and is the gematria in Greek of Matthew 1:23. So May the 4th, 1968, when my daughter was born, Tracy Lee, she was conceived on July the 29th, 1967, normal gestation 280 days. Jupiter was over Port Alberni for 888 minutes and is 88,800 miles wide. Now add to this, Matthew 1:23 has a Greek gematria of 8880. It becomes rather obvious. This is why they have to kill everybody on Earth. In addition, on these planets, a man of my weight of 222 pounds totals 7353 pounds and is the area of the Shroud of Turin in square inches. Matthew 1:23, behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. This is the Shroud of Turin. This is what the Pope saw. We're talking about Pope Benedict XVI. When he saw my photograph, he compared it to the image of the Shroud of Turin, which you've seen in person many times, because he actually owns it. And he recognised me as being Christ. So the shroud is two pieces of cloth. The larger is 39.5 by 171 inches, which is an area of 6754.5. The number of threads per inch is 169.4, which is the word Emmanuel in Greek, as in Matthew only, in 1:23. The Hebrew number 6754 is teslim, from an unused root meaning phantom or a ghost, a resemblance. The smaller is 3.5, which is 8.8 millimetres. The area is 385,693.92 square millimetres. And that is what the Pope was looking at. The smaller at 3.5, or the 385,693.92 square millimetres. The 3856 is loha, which is meaning to burn. Also from exhaustion or of frenzy, to languish and faint, but it means to burn. In Greek, to show alongside the public exposed to infamy, make a public example, put to open shame. The larger piece in square millimetres is 4357733.22, and that number is completion, perfect. Now, forward in time to April 5th, 1943, the Holy Ghost is conceived in Daphne Golightly. Why? Because I am the Father and I cannot have a natural father. There are the numbers on that date. Now in the Torah, there are 1,586 verses with the word Lord, leaving 5,080 of the 6666 in the remainder. Now the 6666 is a clue. This was done by King James and Edward de Vere, who was William Shakespeare. So by manipulating the numbers to give us 6666, is showing us that this Old Testament is, and the New Testament, which it heavily influences, is from Babylon, because the numbering system is 6666. So your highest number in thousands, for example, would be 6666, then it jumps up again. So as I said before, the Old Testament and 657 in the New. Now as King James was anointed king on the rock of the scone, he, the first legitimate king on the sacred stone of destiny, it was stolen by Edward I on July the 4th, 1296 and taken to England. The true king therefore was James. He had divine powers and used them after he was anointed king upon the rock of the scone, the stone of destiny, Raphael. For example, he would not have known that the nuclear fusion rate of the sun would be discovered to be the same number as Lord there are in the New Testament, yet he did do that. Divine. So there's the nuclear fusion rate there, 657 million tonnes of hydrogen converted to 652.5 million tonnes of helium. 4.5 million is heat and light. Now, the 1284 is a distance on the 22nd of June in a few days' time. This is when they want to pull off the greatest destruction in Earth's history and kill all mankind by detonating several more nuclear plants across the world. In The Simpsons, they always have a storyline that predicts these nuclear blasts will occur throughout the world. To me it's quite sick, but this is what they do. Now, from Venus to Jupiter, Venus is a morning star. It's 5.55 astronomical units, so that is Christ. So we're lining up for a battle. Mercury is a messenger. It's 5.67. Hebrew, it is to consume. Earth is 6.16. Greek is beget, a prisoner in Hebrew. Mars is 608. Hebrew and Greek to close fully, shut up. And then you've got the 1284, which is to break, to rend what? Satan, Yehudi, destroyed by Christ Yahweh. This is what the stars are saying on that date. They would have, of course, a different interpretation, but that's what it means. When you're talking about the heavens, it's my territory. What I say is what it is. Now, the Yehudi, today are the Zionist Jews, are planning another false flag, as I said, by detonating a nuclear reactor on the west coast of America, at least one. It is a fact that all nuclear reactors have been compromised with the CIA Israeli Stuxnet virus, and the target date at this time is June the 22nd, 2014. Now, there are several reasons for this, and I've gone through them with you, and what we're looking at is the 1284, which is to rent, tear asunder. Total distance for all the planets is 4155, and that is distress. The 5.55 is the number of times the word Christ is found, and it is also the morning star. Revelation 2:28, and I will give him the morning star. So it must come to pass. Revelation 22:16, I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. The Yehudi Khazaria Zionists have influenced via the CIA Skull and Bonesman and the Mossad to install these Stuxnet virus in all reactors in the Western nations. So this is how they intend to kill all mankind, with plutonium. I have said, however, that if you buy magnets, and especially if you can get them on eBay, or get neodymium magnets and drill holes in the centre of them. Machine shops can do that with a diamond drill. And you put the two south poles together with a bolt in it, you'll end up with two north poles opposing, so that if the plutonium drifts near you in the air, and apparently in the United States and Canada, the people there breathe on average 10 cubic metres of air per day, and in every 2 cubic metres there is 1 plutonium particle. So that everybody is breathing at least 5 plutonium particles per day. That gets into your lungs and your tissues are negative. The plutonium is a positive because it's been up in the clouds and it takes on a positive charge. So when it goes into your lungs, it'll embed into your lungs because you breathed it in, and that will destroy the DNA, and then you have a cancer runaway. And what you do is you can put a positive, or in this case a north pole, against your chest if you have the cancer, and that will push out. Or if it's a south pole on the other side of your chest, it'll pull it in one way and the north pole will push it. and it will, as if you were just a large bag of water. These things are so small, 1/10 of a nanometer, which is, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a metre, divided by 10, so it's 1/10 of a metre, is the width of these tiny plutonium. And it has been said that 1 pound of plutonium in this manner will kill every living human being on earth. Now, King James, who we know changed the handwritten manuscript handed him for authorisation by the Freemason Jews, he and Edward de Vere were tweaking it before he would authorise it. He, of all people, being from Scotland, was aware of the royal descent, and his line was secondary to the lineage of King William, the line of Scotland. So he was about to put a code in it. He took the word Sabbath, which is Jesus, and he took out the capital S and made it a lowercase. There's 115 in the Bible, and the Golightly name, which he was aware of, which was more royal than his line, has a value of 115. So he was identifying with the Sabbath being changed, as was Jesus, to a lower case as a derogatory move, identifying the name Golightly. So, as Charles I was beheaded on January the 30th, 1649, Charles was 48.2 years old, and that is meaning the word silence in Hebrew. At his trial, he said nothing. It was a set-up by the bankers in Amsterdam demanding he be killed before they would finance Parliament under Oliver Cromwell. And he allowed the Jews back into England. But the Jews were specific not to let anyone find out that they were behind it, to murder Charles. So the number 482 tells a story, followed by the date of his death to my rebirth. So we see then that silence is in Psalms 31:18. Let the lying lips be put to silence, which speak grievous things proudly and contemptuously against the righteous. So he was the righteous, and the lying lips were the accusers against him. Now the word silence is shown before is to be dumb, to put to silence. And in number 2514 we have the word purification. So here we have a date, the 16th of November 1600, and Saturday the 30th of January 1649. So in weeks it is that number 2514. That's when he was beheaded. His head was hacked off, by the way. So we then see there is 107726 days between his death and my birth, rebirth. Now, because it's on the other side of the world, and I was born in the morning, the difference in time, day-wise, was 107726, but in fact it was 107725, going past the international date line. Now, the following waypoint is in Cornwall, where Mary, the mother of Jesus' family, originated. So the location is the most northerly point on Trevone Road, Padstow, and I inherited a home with my siblings at 7 Trevone Street, Padstow in Sydney. Now the difference in distance is 10772.5 miles apart. So there's a close-up at the lower point on the toe. As we move in, we see Trevone, and we see, as we get closer in, Padstow to the right, Trevone to the left. We go up close to it, the very most northerly point. The distance to the Trevone Road in Padstow in Sydney is that number 10772.5 miles. There's the longitude and latitude. You can only do this with Magellan software. You can't do it with Google Earth because they know this is how I do the measurements of the Earth, and so therefore they change it. It's about 7 miles out at this distance. So there it is there, Trevone. It's Davies Road. If anyone lives in Bankstown area, Trevone Street, Padstow. It's a very, very large city, by the way, nearly 5 million people. So Charles was beheaded by the dragon. Now the word Lord is found in 182 verses of the book of Genesis. And so we subtract from the 1586 total of the Torah, gives us 1404, which is in Greek the dragon. The Torah is totally a construct by the self-chosen Yehudi, the false Jews out of Babylon. The Torah dominates the Christian Bible, therefore 1586 Greek concordance tells us that is to select and chosen, and in Hebrew it is the word Gomer, which is completion. We see the last of the Torah is Deuteronomy 34:11. So as Revelation was written in 96 AD, then we have the dragon 1404 stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered. So it's talking of the future. He was having a vision of the future, not was past, not of the cross. It was the seeing the Lord coming to the earth in the future. So this is what happened. My mother was ill, and I'd imagine she was made ill with my sister, and she spent 13 months in hospital, and the doctors said she was not to have any more children, and the priest, of course, agreed, and they are all part of the beast. So Revelation is all about the end time. So what dragon stood before what woman to devour her baby as soon as it was born? Well, Daphne Golightly, husband's name, Marshall, she had given birth to my half-sister on August the 18th, 1938. Now I draw your attention to July the 20th when she was married in 1934 to August the 18th, 1938, which is distance in time is 212 weeks and 6 days. So rounded 2127, which is 1 Chronicles 5:13, which if you've been following us, I'm not going to go over it over and over again, is in 1 Chronicles is the distance in time in years, 2.127 years between my youngest daughter and my youngest stepdaughter. So we have Friday the 20th July 1934 and Tuesday the 6th of April 1943. The distance in time was 4, 5, 4 and 4 days. We see then that the height of the pyramid, when you convert that 4, 5, 4 and 4 days to a decimal, it is 454.57, which is the height of the pyramid, equals 5,449 pyramid inches. The pyramid inch is slightly larger than a British inch, so you've got to multiply it by 1.00106 divided by 12 will give you the height of 454.57. Just a reminder, you can read through that, how it all fits together. I'll just read it quickly. November the 2nd, 1977, youngest daughter, and Rhiannon. December the 20th, youngest stepdaughter, 1979. My eldest, Tracy Lee, May the 4th, 1968. Sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. I was 8,880 days old. That is Matthew 1:23. She's 11.626 years older than Rhiannon. That's my youngest stepdaughter. Her mother, Michelle, was 32.75 years old on her birth and was 1162.6 days younger than myself. Now, where Michelle was reborn is 3134 nautical miles to the South Pole, and St. Margaret's maternity, my birth, is 3877, which is the first total for God. Subtract the 3137 from the 3877, it gives you 743, and that is the archangel, or chief angel. Now we have the 3134, the distance to in nautical miles to the South Pole from where she grew up, Dundas Street in Preston, Melbourne, and that is Mene, of Aramaic origin, meaning our Lord has come, Maranatha, an exclamation of the approaching divine judgment, Maranatha. Now, if you were a Satanist, you'd be starting to get very, very cold hands at the moment, knowing that this is reality. They've got no chance of survival with me on the earth. So they're going to try and kill you all. So they know precisely who the royal line was, and they've been waiting for it. Revelation 12:3, that lines up with Matthew 1:23. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now the 7 heads is the Vatican. That's 11th February 1929, and the Pope Benedict retired on the same date in 2013. The 10 tribes of Israel is Europe, and that is why you try and trace out what happened to the 10 tribes that was defeated by Assyria and then were released by the preaching of Jonah. Now what happened was Jonas went there and he was heard about by the king by the time he got there. It was a very, very large city, 80 miles across. So by the time he tramped in, he thought he was going to get his tongue cut out, because that's usually what the king would do to messengers, because he didn't take messages from any other. And he had repented. He was in sackcloth. So the 10 tribes, they moved to Europe. And how did they get there? Well, there was many ships, hundreds of ships sailing back and forth to the Middle East from England with the trade in tin and copper and iron. Now, goes to Revelation 12:4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did then cast them to the earth. Now, this can be seen from the descending passage up until the Earth axis started to tilt over. So the North Star is no longer the North Star that was seen from the descending passage of the Great Pyramid. So that means time is finished. No more time. They knew it, but they didn't realise that the Earth crossed the Milky Way galaxy equator line on the 11th of December in the year 2011, which I was predicting all the way through. The reason for that is the Catholic Church had added 10 days in 1582 on October the 4th, making the 15th the next day. So October the 5th became the 15th. The sunrise to sunset was 666 minutes. However, they also didn't count into the 1 BC to 1 AD. There's 365 days not counted for the year 0. So that makes it 375 days out. You subtract that from December the 20th, 21st, and it gives you the 11th of December in the year 2011. At that point in time, the Coriolis effect of the Milky Way galaxy, which they had no idea, started to turn the waters that flows down your drain in the northern hemisphere that used to go clockwise now goes counterclockwise. And in Australia, it used to go counterclockwise, now goes clockwise. So, with the detonation of these Fukushima, the winds that is carrying this plutonium and other these dreadful particles are going in the wrong direction as far as they're concerned, and didn't go where they intended. However, it did end up on the north coast of Europe and on the north coast of, the west coast of Europe and the west coast of America. So, was that intentional? Well, they want to kill you anyhow, so it's working into their confirmation. As said, the descending passage no longer points to the North Star. When we was in England, we went to Herne Bay and we had calculated that the axis of the Earth was then 35 miles or approximate north of that particular point. So here we have, when you look out of the descending passage, you would have seen the night sky, and you can't see it during the day. So it's a night vision. And we have Draconis, which is the red eye of the dragon, and it's 1/3 of heaven. So this is what Revelation is talking about. To the right we have the position of the Great Pyramid and the axis of the Earth. And they cross in space at the same number in miles as is the pi angle of the descending, rather the face angle of the Great Pyramid, 51 degrees, 51.14.3. And in miles, that would be 5151.14.3, thousands of miles, 51,000 miles. So by 1944, Daphne Golightly was pregnant. The demons knew precisely who the true royal line was, therefore were waiting to try and kill me. They forbid me according to the Protocol 14. That was written long before I was born. We will forbid Christ, knowing that Christ was coming. This is the learned elders of Zion. Google it, see if you can find it. It's there. So it goes on, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns. That's only today. This is the Vatican in Europe. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. So we go back and look at that. There it is, third part of heaven. And cast them to the earth. So in other words, all the demons are down here. They are reincarnated into the likes of George Bush Senior, all of the administration, the Jews, the Illuminati, all of the wealthy people of the earth. Easy to find out who the demons are. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So if you're filthy rich, you've got a problem. So the dragon stood before the woman, Daphne, which was ready to be delivered, myself, to devour her child, myself, as soon as it was born. And they've been trying for the last 70 years. Not working. So she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. That's myself. Because he was looking into the future. So when he goes back to his own reality of 96 AD, where's the baby gone? Back up to heaven. The third part of heaven is the gathering of all the evil souls on the earth, the judgment in the future that he saw. Vision in 96 AD on April the 5th, which is April the 6th in Australia. Now, from the human perspective, as said, all priests are on thin ice. They oppose the Pope. A Jesuit sworn to tear out the baby from its mother's womb and smash its head on a wall. So all of the good priests are on thin ice. If they find out, like Father Giuseppe, he was killed. So the Jesuit oath, can you see myself or yourself, Jesus, approaching or approving of that oath? Now in Matthew 5:37, it says, but let your communication be yea, yea, or nay, nay. For whosoever is more than these things, they cometh to evil. So it's a future vision yet to happen, being the end time. So we've got Europe, the Vatican, 7 Pope Kings, the third part of heaven, no longer can be seen from the descending passage, and April the 5th, 33 AD is where it all ended for the demons, because they knew it was only a matter of time. So the third part of heaven is the gathering of souls to earth for judgment in the future, as seen from the island of Patmos. So the following verse was also future. It's Michael, the archangel, battling the dragon. Well, Michael is the angel of the Lord. So we're looking at 26th of June 2010 as a very dangerous moment. Because on that date, 66.66 astronomical units out to the planets shown to the right. Saturn, Jupiter and Uranus, Pluto and Mercury, forming a cross with Alpha Polaris in the centre. So Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought on his angel. Now remember, the word dragon is 1404, and that's how many lords there are in the 4 books of the Torah, not counting Genesis. And these prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. So it was cast to the earth. They must reincarnate. They are the mystery Babylonian Talmud religion, Judaism. It was cast out onto the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. This is Lucifer, the fallen angel. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser, Satan, of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb, this is the cross, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. So the scourging, the blood of the Lamb, if you were doing evil, which Jews do all the time, in those days in particular, they could then take a perfect lamb out of their flock and give it to the priest who would then do a ritual, and the blood of the lamb would be the covering of the sins of that person who had donated the lamb. So the sins of the man had been put into the lamb to be sacrificed, and God, Lucifer being a lunatic, from their perspective, could not see the sin of the sinner. So in my case, as Jesus, I forgave sin, saying I was God. Well, by being scourged and the blood on covering my body meant that no longer could Lucifer see my sins against it. So, therefore rejoice, O heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath not but a short time. So knowing it was defeated by the cross, 70 years it had, which is nothing for the demons, to set the stage to kill all life. Fukushima started it all on March 11th, 2011. So what they've done is got the Christian nations to pay them to build weapons that's going to kill them, which is called nuclear fusion, and plutonium in the reactors all throughout the earth. There's over 500 of them. So this is what the Babylonian mystery religion is all about. They are reincarnated to face judgment. That's why they're in all the rich people of the earth. And as I was saying, overcome them by the blood of the Lamb. Nuclear reactors built as bombs. King James I finally had the opportunity to get even with the Freemasons, and that's why he manipulated with Edward de Vere, who was William Shakespeare, into putting the codes in there, knowing that he is the anointed king, that the Christ, who is the anointed, which basically means the word Christ, to be anointed. So the king was taking on the job of being Christ, and he did it wonderfully. And his diabolical Christian child sacrificing was well known. In fact, James was very interested in the witchcraft practiced by the likes of Solomon. It was Solomon who received 666 talents of gold each year, and he built things like Moloch. And if we go to the Bohemian Grove in the United States, it is 3091 miles from the North Pole, and that in Greek is the word Lot. And in Hebrew it is the word Joshua. So we look at 1 Chronicles 5:13 briefly, and there's the numbers in blue, which totals 31106, the 7 names, and we've got all of those people joined together. We've got the 11.626 years of my eldest daughter to my youngest stepdaughter. We've got 2.127 years, which is 777 days, connected to the same daughter, stepdaughter, so my youngest daughter to my youngest stepdaughter. And then we've got Michelle, who was 32.75 years old, and that's Jacan. It's right beside 2127, and those two are solitary numbers, so in all the Bible they are only found in one place, and they just happen to be side by side, so you do the math on it. So we have the 7 names divided into 31106. That gives you 4443.714. That is Isaiah 714. That is the word of God via Isaiah, talking about the Emmanuel. He will give you a sign, a baby will be born, etc. And the names, God, or the word God, is found in the 3877 verses 4443 times. And the children that I raised in Canada, the houses I built, were 444.3 kilometres apart. Now, when we go into the Great Pyramid, we go from the Great Step through from the Grand Gallery to the far wall of the King's Chamber. Then we go to 286.1 to the centre of the coffer. Then we go to the ceiling, and then we add those all together. We multiply by lunation 29.53052 days, and it gives you 31101, and that is the Julian day I was born on. Isaiah 7:14 is the following. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. This is in Isaiah 7:14. But you see that the Emmanuel is spelt with an I. So the only other is Emmanuel, spelt with an E in the New Testament. That's not surprising. This is how they do it. Now, Isaiah 7:14 has a gematria of 1064, and that means the firstling, birthright, firstborn. The Greek 1064 is with child, belly, womb. Now it goes to Matthew 1:23, behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Greek gematria 8880. So there's no mistake here. The English gematria is 1204. Add to the 714 total, gives you 2268, and 2268 is Heber, which is in 1 Chronicles 5:13. Hello? Now, Greek, it is the word Isaiah. So the sayings of Isaiah must be fulfilled. Now what they do in the Greek, they slightly change the spelling, but Esaias is Isaiah. Therefore they could not believe, because that Isaiah said again, he hath blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts. That's applying to today. We see then that the miracles of the pyramid, King's Chamber level, and 1 Chronicles 5:13 are all aligned. And that's the numbers there, and there's the Julian day I was born on. This is when we went to the pyramid. There's the pyramid tickets. The centre ticket was mine. The number is 1162. So what's the width of the antechamber? 116.26. On that day I had 11 heart attacks because they tried to kill me again. Now, it's also predicted that when I come to the earth that I would be rejected. Psalms 118:22, where my first wife grew up, 20 Newbeck Street, Lidsdale, New South Wales, Australia, to where I grew up, 114 Regent Street, Mascot, Sydney, Australia, is a distance of 118.22. That is the distance between the two bedrooms. As I said, I built 2 homes in Canada. These are 444.3 kilometres apart. Now, on the other upload I've done, quite long and lengthy, it shows you those where I do it with Magellan software from one point to the other, screen capturing it. We've got Isaiah 9:6 with 96th day of the year, every 7th letter counting from right to left, as Hebrew is written right to left, totals 888. Then you got Isaiah 11:1, my birth date, 11th of January, same thing. This is the 537 pyramid inches, which I showed you, dropping down from directly south from where I was born to the latitude of the house on Nell Street. The distance in is 537 pyramid inches as kilometres, 537 kilometres. Now the Nell Street home, when I moved there, it is 5813, and there's the numbers directly above as the distances from the coffer to the walls of the Great Pyramid is 5813. It's also the height of the Great Pyramid, and 5813 times 2 is 116.26. That's the antechamber, and my age when I married, 1162.6. So we have, again, the 20th of July 1934, marriage of my mother, till April the 6th, my conception, is 454.5712 weeks, which is the height in feet of the Great Pyramid, up to the missing capstone. So the word God is the 666 is in Deuteronomy 3:2-1-8. Of a rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten God that formed thee. And I'm not talking about God, they're talking about Lucifer. However, it fits. The word Lord, the 666, is in Leviticus 171. What's that? That's the length of the Shroud of Turin, 171 inches. Now the next slide is our home in Tugum, Queensland. So we have on a lake a straight line past the Isle outcrop, aligns with the south fence lines on the most extremities of the lake. From west to east, heading is 128.17 degrees, and 1282 rounded is Hebrew 1282. Once I met my wife, they knew I was going to destroy them when my angels arrived on the planets with the red dwarf Nibiru. Martha, my wife, then and now. There's the number, 657. There's the lake. The 1281 number, which is the bearing, is the serpent as fleeing a crooked constellation, a piercing serpent. So what it's talking about is, we've got 1 Chronicles 3:22, the bonesman number of 322. There are 7 names totaling the 36226 divided by 7 is 5157, 14 to 8. Hebrew, a snake from its hiss, the serpent. So no matter where they go, no how far they wriggle, they get trapped. So here is the verse that's talking about, you see there's 7935, and there's 8098, and it's mentioned again, 8098. So that's 2 people. Then there's the third, 2407. Then the fourth, 3008. Then the fifth, 1282, which is where that came from in the bearing of that distance across the lake. Then we got 5294, and then we got 8202. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But it counts it as 6. Something has drawn your attention to that. So this would have been done by King James. So we add the 7 names, not 8, because 1 is mentioned twice, and that's the one that's repeated. We get 36226 divided by 7 is 5157.1428 is the average, and that gives you the lake number 1282 bearing across the lake, and is the Israelite barrier. The 1281 is a shortened from 1272 a fugitive, the serpent as fleeing, and the constellation by the name Levithian crooked noble piercing. 322 is the lodge number for the skull and bones out of Yale. They're the ones that's behind it all. So it is a snake from its hiss, a serpent, which goes back to the Talmud, which goes back to the Khazars, which goes back to their original religion of a serpent and a phallic. In fact, they were so depraved that the king of Khazaria wanted to stop their depravity and brought in the rabbis from Babylon and converted them, because it was the most evil of the 3 religions and suited his purposes, and at least it got them to have a Talmud where they could control the masses with a Talmud and kill people without having to worry about punishment. So, and they shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. So, Isaiah 27:1. In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Levithian, the piercing serpent, even Levithian, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. So we've got Leviathan, Hebrew Dictionary 3882, a serpent, figuratively, the constellation of the dragon. And we are back to what I'm talking about, which is also being a symbol of Babylon, pointing out exactly who it is that we're to target, the Jews. So here's Albert Einstein, a good Jew. He was 32 years old before he knew anything about Jesus. Went to a Catholic school. So here we have the numbers in days to give you some idea. how the 26th of October 1929, which is the Vatican, to the 6th of April 1943 is 4910. That number is Marshall in Hebrew. When we go from Saturday the 26th of October 1929 to the 11th of March 2011, we have 5 weeks and 6 days. So I'll leave off here and you can go through it yourself to get some idea. This is the 2 solar eclipses that are important. The one that occurred 14 days after I was born. I was measuring on the 25 degrees latitudes, north and south. It is 8,888.8 miles to 105 Rothschild Avenue in Rosebery. And the 942 is Prince Charles's birthday in 2012. And where that occurred, it is 942 miles to the 105 Rothschild Avenue. And that number is how many times the word Jesus is found verse total in the New Testament. And that's how old I was when my family moved to 114 Regent Street. The actual address at the time was 3 Old Botany Road, Mascot. They changed the name for it for some unknown reason. I'd like to find out why and when. So I do not ask permission. It's not an election. I'm just telling you how it is. You're either with me or you're against me. Now, my wives and offspring share links to Scorpio via Wi-Fi line. They ain't going to make it. Then Pauline, the 25th of October, my nephew was murdered on her birthday in 2003. My younger stepdaughter Rhiannon, 20th of December, she's not going to make it either. Michelle, her mother, she's not going to make it. She was Mary Magdalene, who had the 7 devils driven out, and she was, when the devils come back after they wait for the baby to be reborn again, she is tempted by 7 devils, and they bring with them 7 more. So she's got 7 devils times 7 plus 7. So, and a certain woman which had healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene. She is 11.626 years younger than I. Of low estate, vile, which she is, foolish, hollow, vain. I met her on Mother's Day. I was 53.33, which is what she was, a sorcerer. Pharmacon. A spell-giving portion, a druggist, a pharmacist. That's how they line up in the Great Pyramid. And a close-up of it. There's the family spread across the stars in offices, which was taken out of the constellations and put back in by Nostradamus, which is accurate. And there's the children again. And where I was in Greensboro, 31680 kilometres around the Earth and 5813 from the South Pole, which is the height of the pyramid. My age when I married, 22.28, which is 1162.6 weeks, is the height of the highest mountain in Australia. It is 169.4 nautical miles from the Nell Street address, and that's Emmanuel. And it goes on and on and on. Now, Messier discovered the greatest comet of the century on August the 8th, 1769. If we add 8 days to that, it gives you December the 20th, 2012, which is the eve of the Mayan calendar, crossing of the Milky Way galaxy equator. But it's Rhiannon, my stepdaughter's birthday. She was 33. Cook sighted it when he was sailing back from Antarctica. He jotted it down in his ship's log. 8 days. Added to that date, the 30th of August 1769, was my 69th birthday, January 11th, 2013. Now, Rhiannon's eldest daughter, Alaska, born on August 11th, 2001. The date was 2 years after the last solar eclipse of the 20th century. My deceased mother would have been 88.8 years. Her grandmother, Michelle, was 54.4. Rhiannon demanded if I was Christ, tell her the date the baby was going to be born, so I did, yes, 11th of August at 8:53. On that date she arrived at the house, taunting me. Well, the baby's not here yet. I replied, the day is not over yet. As she's driving away, laughing and scorning, her water broke and she gave birth at the exact moment I predicted. The 544, which was the age of Michelle, Mary Magdalene, she did not believe, so she disbelieved willfully and perversely. Disobedient. Mary Magdalene. The name Mary in Hebrew is 4813. It means to be rebellious. And now we're back to the beginning, so we'll leave it there. Remember, it's not an election, and if you don't raise up and do something about it, get your military in gear, take over the Pentagon, take over the White House, do the same in Europe with all your military and your police forces, raise up, take over, and we can fix this, because once you believe in me, you have the gift of creation, and if you all think the same thing, it can be solved. If you don't do it, it ain't going to be a pretty sight, because I'm going to do it with my angels, and if you ain't with me and you're against me, you've got a problem.